Okay, so we're diving into apartment hunting today,
Mm-hmm.
but not just anywhere.
Okay.
We're heading over to China,
Ooh, intriguing.
specifically Luoyang.
Okay.
I know a lot of you have been curious about what rental costs look like over there.
Yeah, for sure.
And let me tell you, what we found is pretty mind-blowing.
Really?
Yeah, we found an expat who's actually living there in Luoyang.
Okay.
And they took us on a tour of 3 different apartments
Wow.
to give us an idea of what we could expect to pay.
I'm interested.
And the prices are unbelievably low
Oh, wow. Okay.
compared to what most of us are probably used to paying here.
Makes you rethink things, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
What we think is normal here
Right.
could be a total steal somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so first up, picture this.
Okay.
The first apartment is a decent size,
Okay.
60 square meters.
All right.
That's about 645 square feet
Okay.
with 2 bedrooms.
Nice.
Okay, are you ready for the price?
Hit me.
900 RMB per month.
What? That's like $125 US.
Yeah,
You can't
man.
even find a parking spot for that much here in some cities, let alone a whole apartment.
I know, right? I was floored when I saw that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it is an older building.
Okay.
It could use a little TLC,
Uh-huh.
but it's got all the basics, you know?
Like what?
It's got a 2-burner stove,
Okay.
a full-size bed in the master bedroom, a twin bed in the other bedroom, a washer in the hallway,
All right.
and one of those combo toilet shower deals.
Oh, yeah, you see those a lot in some parts of the world.
Interesting.
It's funny how you know what's standard in one place seems totally foreign in another.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of different standards,
Yeah.
this next place is even more interesting.
Okay. Lay it on me.
So it's a little bit smaller,
Uh,
75 square meters,
Mhm.
about 800 square feet,
okay.
and it only has 1 bedroom.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It's got hardwood floors, radiator heating, air conditioning,
Oh, wow.
a bay window in the bedroom, and a balcony that's been converted into a laundry area. Yeah, all for 1,500 RMB per month.
That's about $207.
Yeah,
You're getting a lot more for your money with that one.
right. You're really getting bang for your buck there.
It shows how value can really change depending on where you are.
Totally.
What might be a steal in one market could be overpriced in another.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
And you know what else? This apartment has a view of the city.
Oh, nice.
But our source did mention some pollution haze.
Yeah. I mean, it's always something, right?
Right.
You know, there's always some trade-offs.
Yeah.
It's all about figuring out what's important to you. Space, amenities, location,
Mm-hmm.
price, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, are you ready for apartment number 3?
Oh, yeah, hit me.
This one is the showstopper.
Okay.
Brand new, never been lived in, decked out with modern everything.
Right?
It's a little bit smaller again, 51 square meters, so that's about 540 square feet.
Okay.
But it packs a punch.
Okay.
2 bedrooms, plus a loft office space.
Ooh, nice.
Queen-size beds in both bedrooms. Fancy glass-enclosed kitchen storage space under the stairs,
Okay, I'm listening.
and a killer view.
All for how much?
2,500 RMB a month.
So that's about $318 US.
Yeah.
You know, the luxury options in Luoyang,
Right.
the prices are incredibly reasonable.
I know, it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah, compared to what you'd find elsewhere.
It makes you think about what's actually possible. You know? When it comes to finding a place to live,
Yeah, for sure.
this could be a game changer for some people.
Absolutely. It opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine what you could do with the money you'd save on rent.
Right.
You know, maybe travel more, pursue a passion project,
Mhm.
or just have more financial freedom.
Yeah. Okay, but before we get too carried away dreaming about our new lives in China,
Right.
let's talk about what it actually takes to rent a place there.
Okay. Yeah.
Our source explained that typically you have to pay 3 months worth of rent up front. So first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit.
That's something to keep in mind for budgeting purposes.
Yeah.
It's a pretty common practice in a lot of places,
Mm-hmm.
but always good to be prepared.
Yeah, definitely. And here's another insider tip.
Okay.
You usually have to factor in a real estate agent fee,
Oh, right. Yeah.
which is typically half a month's rent.
Okay.
But the good news is that it's often negotiable.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes the landlord will cover it.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes the renter does.
Right.
Sometimes they'll split it.
It's definitely worth having that conversation, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
and seeing what your options are.
Absolutely. And to top it all off,
Yeah.
all 3 of these apartments are located right smack dab in downtown Luoyang,
Okay.
within a 10-minute walk of the metro.
Location, location, location.
No, right.
So you're getting affordability and accessibility.
Best of both worlds.
There you go.
So what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's definitely eye-opening.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what other hidden gems are out there.
I know, right? I can already picture myself strolling through those bustling markets.
Mm-hmm. And trying all the street food.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, but before we get ahead of ourselves,
Right.
let's dig a little deeper into what life in Luoyang is actually like.
Yeah, I think it gets even more interesting from here.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore. You know, one thing I noticed about these apartments
Uh-huh.
was those shoe cabinets by the entrance.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really see those that much here.
Yeah, not so much.
It's like having a built-in mini mudroom.
Right?
I bet that's super practical.
Yeah, especially if you're dealing with,
Yeah,
rain and snow and stuff.
totally. And I think it goes beyond just practicality, though.
Oh, really?
It's a sign of respect for the home. In Chinese culture, you're leaving the dirt and chaos of the outside world at the door.
I like that.
Literally and symbolically.
It's like a little ritual
Exact.
to transition into your personal space.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that what we consider normal
Right.
is often just a reflection of our own cultural background.
Makes you wonder what other little cultural quirks we might encounter if we lived there.
Oh, I'm sure there are tons.
Right.
That's part of the fun of experiencing new cultures.
For sure. Okay, so speaking of new discoveries,
Yeah.
our source also mentioned that their own one-bedroom apartment, which is also brand new,
Uh-huh.
only cost them $200 a month.
Wow.
So it seems like these prices we saw
Yeah.
aren't just a fluke.
Right. It's reassuring to hear that.
Yeah.
It seems like the rental market in Luoyang is pretty affordable across the board.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we've talked about the apartments themselves,
Right.
the prices, the location,
Mm-hmm.
but what about the actual process of renting a place in China?
Yeah.
Like, is it pretty straightforward?
Well, our source didn't go into a ton of detail,
Uh-huh.
but they did mention that typically you need to provide some documentation.
Okay.
Like your passport and your visa.
That makes sense.
And sometimes you need a letter of employment or proof of income.
Yeah, landlords everywhere want to make sure you can actually pay the rent, right?
Exactly. It's all about making sure you're a reliable tenant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also worth noting that lease terms can vary quite a bit.
Okay.
Some landlords prefer longer leases, like a year or more,
Uh-huh.
while others are more flexible with month-to-month options.
Right.
So it's always best to clarify those details up front,
Yeah, good point.
so you don't run into any surprises down the line.
Better safe than sorry, especially when you're navigating a new system.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to negotiate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually pretty common to haggle over things like the rent,
Mm.
the lease length, maybe even some minor repairs you want done before you move in.
Haggling over rent, that's not something I'm used to.
I know it can feel a little strange at first,
Yeah.
but it's often expected, especially in more traditional markets.
Oh,
It's all about finding a fair deal
right.
for both parties.
Interesting. So what's the key to haggling?
Well, first of all, be respectful,
Okay.
be patient,
Uh-huh.
and be prepared to walk away if you're not comfortable with the terms.
Okay.
It's a bit of a dance, really,
Right?
and it takes practice to get the hang of it.
But it sounds like it could be kind of fun.
Yeah, once you get the hang of it, it can be pretty rewarding.
Okay, so we talked about rent,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously rent's just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Right, exactly.
What else should people consider when thinking about affordability in Luoyang?
Well, you also have to think about all the other expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Food, transportation, utilities, entertainment, all that stuff.
Right, because those can add up quickly.
They really can, even if the rent is super low.
Exactly. So do you think Luoyang stacks up well?
I mean, from everything I've seen,
Yeah.
it seems like a pretty budget-friendly city overall.
Okay.
I know our source mentioned that they can eat out for super cheap,
Wow.
and public transportation is really easy to use and inexpensive.
That's great to hear. It sounds like you could really make your money go far there.
Yeah, you could really stretch your budget in Luoyang
Right.
and still have a comfortable lifestyle.
That's pretty appealing, especially for people who are maybe looking to live more simply or save money,
Totally.
maybe even retire early.
It definitely opens up some interesting possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. It's not just about finding a cheap place to live.
Right.
It's about a whole different way of life.
Exactly. And that's something to think about. What are your priorities?
Right.
What kind of lifestyle are you really looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Affordability isn't just about the numbers. It's
Yeah.
about finding a place that aligns with your values and your aspirations.
Well said. Okay, but even with all this talk of affordability,
Yeah.
there's one thing we can't ignore.
What's that?
Pollution.
Right.
Our source did mention it a few times, especially when talking about the views from these apartments.
Yeah. How does that factor into the equation?
Exactly. So how bad is the pollution in Luoyang?
Well, it's something to be aware of for sure.
Yeah.
China has been dealing with air pollution for years.
Right.
And Luoyang is no exception.
So how do people find out more about that?
Well, you can do your research. Check air quality reports online.
Okay.
Talk to people who live there, get their perspective.
Right.
Just be informed.
Makes sense.
It's about weighing the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And making a decision that's right for you.
Okay, so let's say someone is seriously thinking about making the move.
Okay.
What are some resources they could use to learn more about the city and what it's like to live there as an expat?
Well, there's tons of stuff online.
Okay.
You've got expat forums, blogs, Facebook groups. Those are all great places to connect with people who have already made the move.
Right.
And get their firsthand insights.
I love that, hearing from people who are actually living the experience.
Yeah, and don't underestimate the power of just reaching out to people directly.
Oh, okay.
You know, send them a message, ask some questions. You might be surprised at how helpful people can be. It's all about taking that first step, right?
Exactly. Put yourself out there and see what happens.
You never know what you might find.
And sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead to the most rewarding experiences.
I love that. Okay, so with all that in mind, what are your final thoughts on the affordability of Luoyang?
I mean, based on everything we've discussed, it seems like it has a lot to offer.
Right.
Affordable housing, a convenient location, a rich cultural experience.
Right.
But like with any big life decision, it's crucial to do your research. Weigh the pros and cons.
Right.
Make sure it's the right fit for you.
Couldn't said it better myself. So for our listeners out there, what's the one key takeaway you want them to remember from this deep dive?
Keep an open mind.
Okay.
Explore your options. And don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. You never know what amazing opportunities are waiting for you just around the corner.
Well said. Okay, so we're back.
Back again, and ready to wrap up our deep dive into life in Luoyang, China.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. Those super cheap apartments, the rental process, the cultural quirks, even the pollution situation.
Yeah, it's amazing how much there is to consider when you think about living in a new place.
Right.
Especially somewhere that's so different from what you're used to.
Absolutely. Speaking of cultural differences, one thing that really stood out to me was the emphasis on community.
Oh, yeah.
And social connections in China.
Sure.
Our source talked about how easy it was to meet people and make friends, even as an expat.
That's really important, you know, because moving to a new country can be isolating.
Yeah, especially if you don't speak the language.
Right, exactly.
Or don't understand the customs.
Totally. So having a strong social network can make a huge difference.
Okay, so how does someone go about building those connections in Luoyang?
Well, language classes are a great place to start.
Okay.
Not only will you learn some Mandarin, but you'll also meet other people who are in the same boat as you.
Smart. That's a great tip.
And it shows that you're making an effort, you know, to engage with the local culture, which can go a long way.
And don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Right?
Exactly. Join some clubs, attend events, strike up conversations with people you meet.
Right.
The more you put yourself out there, the more comfortable you'll become.
It's all about taking those little steps outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. And you might be surprised at how welcoming people are.
Okay.
Chinese culture really values hospitality, especially towards guests and newcomers.
That's good to know. It takes some of the pressure off.
For sure.
So let's say someone's convinced Luoyang is the place for them.
Okay.
What are some practical things they need to think about?
Well, visas are the first hurdle.
Okay.
China has different types of visas depending on why you're there.
Right.
So make sure you do your research and apply for the right one well in advance.
Got it. What about healthcare?
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
China does have a public healthcare system, but it can be tough to navigate as a foreigner.
Okay.
So a lot of expats opt for private health insurance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Better to be safe than, anything else.
Banking and finances can be a bit tricky too.
Oh, really?
It's not always easy to open a bank account as a foreigner, and credit cards aren't as widely accepted.
Oh, okay.
So do some research and figure out the best way to manage your money.
Great advice. It's those little practical things that can really trip you up.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
From those amazing apartments to cultural insights,
Yeah.
visa requirements, even banking tips.
What a whirlwind tour of Luoyang.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But I think we've given our listeners a good overview.
I think so. We've covered the good and the bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for anyone out there who's now daydreaming about packing their bags and heading to China,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want them to remember?
Do your research.
Okay. Be open to new experiences, and don't be afraid to take a leap of faith. Living abroad can be an incredible experience.
It really can.
But go into it with your eyes open.
Right.
And a sense of adventure.
Couldn't have said it better myself, and on that note,
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into Luoyang.
It's been fun.
We hope you enjoyed the journey.
Yeah.
And learned something new along the way.
And if you decide to make the move, send us a postcard.
We'd love to hear about it.
Safe travels.
Thanks for joining us on